This is the new Hue Bridge Pro. It's the successor to the V2 bridge and it comes with a few upgrades and advantages of the old bridge. I've only had it for a few days, but I already have some thoughts to share, both positive and negative. So consider this a first impressions video where I'll be mainly focusing on the migration process, but I'll also be sharing my initial thoughts on the new MotionAware functionality, what it is, how you set it up, and how reliable I found it to be. So without further ado, let's get started. First off, this video is not sponsored. I bought the Bridge Pro with my own money, and Signify, the company behind Philips Hue, has no idea that I'm making this video. Let's start with the unboxing experience. The box itself is fairly standard for Hue packaging when it comes to the design. The only thing that's really interesting to note here is the branding on the box. Gone is the Philips Hue branding in the top left corner, and that has instead been replaced with a Hue branding. So at the moment, Signify is actually paying a licensing fee to Philips to use the name Philips Hue. And it's clear that they want to move away from this name and instead only rely on Hue, which is a Signify brand. In the box, you'll find a bunch of manuals, the Hue Bridge Pro itself, one of the new things with the Bridge Pro is the inclusion of Wi-Fi. That means that you can place it wherever you want in your home as long as you have Wi-Fi coverage where you place it. And that means that you technically don't need the Ethernet cable provided. But Signify still recommends that you use a wired connection between the Bridge Pro and your router, since that will result in the most stable connection. Another upgrade is the inclusion of a USB Type-C in the back. So gone is the old barrel jack that would power the V2 and the V1 hub, and it's instead replaced with this USB Type-C cable. But that's pretty much it when it comes to unboxing the Bridge Pro. So chances are that you already own a Hue Bridge and you don't want to resync and reconnect all of your lights and all of your accessories. Well, Signify has thought of this and they have included a migration tool in the newest update of the Hue app. So let's go in and try to migrate the V2 bridge to the new Bridge Pro and see how easy it is and what kind of things that you need to be aware of before starting the migration process. So we're here where I have all of my smart home hubs and my router, and normally my V2 Philips Hue bridge would be placed right here on this shelf, but since we are replacing it with the Bridge Pro, I think I'm gonna have to, well, basically pull out the entire rack I have here. By the way, if you're interested in this smart home rack, it's a 3D printable smart home rack that you can print in pieces basically and then stack them together. I'll leave the link to my printables in the comments or in the description down below, so you can print it if you're interested. So now that both the old V2 and the new Bridge Pro are connected and powered at the same time, let's try and head to the Philips Hue, the Hue app, and see what kind of setup process we have to go through. Bridges, okay, and add a new bridge. Scan the QR code on the bottom of your bridge. Great. Okay, and now it asks us whether we have a cable connection or a Wi-Fi connection. And they do recommend a cable connection since that will be the most stable connection that you can have between your lights and your router and your internet connection and your network basically. And it needs to be connected to the same network as your router, which, well, that makes sense. Let's search, and it found it right away. And just like the old bridge, you have to press the Hue button for it to actually connect to the net or to the app. If you are migrating from a V2 bridge to a Bridge Pro, please keep in mind that this is a one-way ticket. There is no way to migrate back. So once it's migrated to the Bridge Pro, you're pretty much logged into the Bridge Pro unless you reset your entire Philips Hue home and app. But this might also be a good time to point out that you can only migrate one bridge. If you have more than one bridge, you'll have to wait until later this year when Signify updates the app with the ability to migrate 2 more bridges to the new Bridge Pro. You can still migrate one of your bridges to the new Bridge Pro and then keep the other V2 bridge running at the same time as the Bridge Pro. And then later this year, migrate the second V2 bridge to the Bridge Pro as well. Great. It's now connected to my account. And then right away, it's asking me if I want to replace an existing bridge and migrate all of my devices to the new Bridge Pro. And that's exactly what I want to do. You'll also be made aware that any third-party lights that you do have connected to the V2 bridge won't be migrated automatically. You'll be asked to turn off those lights before you begin the migration process and then re-add them after the migration process has finished. But don't worry, the app will remember their names, their placements, their scenes, and also all of the automations that you've included them in. So it's really not a big deal, more of a minor annoyance than anything. Okay, yes. Next. Duration 30 minutes. Migrating will take approximately 30 minutes. Okay, so that's a pretty long time. Remove non-Hue lights from power. Okay, they are disconnected. All devices are about to be moved. This can't be undone. No, please begin. Preparing your bridge, Hue Bridge. Keep the app open. So the migration process itself takes about 20 to 30 minutes. It's way longer than I had anticipated. I thought the process would take a couple of minutes, but at least you're able to control the lights while the migration process is in progress, which is a nice touch to signify. Okay, so now that it's finally done, it tells me that the device has been moved and I have to reset my old bridge. I have reset my bridge. Some of your devices or integrations didn't migrate and need some extra steps to be added to your new Bridge Pro. It's also at this point that the app will remind you that all of your third-party apps that you use to control your Philips Hue lights might have been affected by the migration process. And this is where I started to run into some problems. I use different smart home apps to control my Philips Hue bridge. And I have had mixed results with the new Bridge Pro in those smart home systems. So let's go through them in the order of least friction to most friction. So let's begin with the Home Assistant integration. After the migration process, I opened the Home Assistant app and saw that connection to my bridge was lost. Nothing I did would reconnect my Home Assistant instance with my Philips Hue bridge. But then luckily, when I woke up the next morning, I noticed that my lights would react to the automations that I set up in the Home Assistant app. And when I opened the Home Assistant app on my phone, I could see that the Philips Hue bridge was once again connected to my Home Assistant instance. Everything worked as well as it did before I migrated. It was almost as if I never started the migration process at all. So I have to give a lot of kudos to the Home Assistant team for making this work and function as fast as they did. Other than Home Assistant, I also use Google Home to control my lights via my voice over my Nest speakers. And here all I had to do was to tell the Nest speaker to resync my devices, and it would think for 10 seconds or so. And then all of my lights worked as before. Just like with Home Assistant, it was as if I never migrated at all and everything just worked just as well as it did before. Again, a great experience. There's really nothing more to say about this experience, really. Then we come to Home Assistant. After the migration process, once I opened the HomeKit app, it asked me to add the new bridge as if it were a new one. And when it told me to add the new bridge, I really do think HomeKit treats this as a brand new bridge, because none of the icons were the custom icons that I have set for all of my lights. And I also had to reconfigure the widgets that I use to control my lights all over again. I don't have any automations running in HomeKit, so I can't tell you whether or not those will be brought over. But my guess would be no. On the Philips Hue website, they do mention that the new Bridge Pro can only be added to HomeKit via Matter. And that's really strange because I'm almost certain that my Bridge Pro is added to HomeKit via the Philips Hue integration, since I didn't enter any Matter codes or scanned any Matter QR codes at all. So I don't really know what's up with that. It's kind of weird. But once I set them up again, everything is running just as smooth as it were before. So
SmartThings together with Home Assistant are my two main smart home platforms that I use, with the majority of automations and routines running on my SmartThings hub. So this integration was really the one that I was most nervous about. And as it turns out, I had a right to be so. Because when I opened the SmartThings app, all of my lights, including my Philips Hue Bridge, were listed as offline. But no matter what I did, trying to re-add it or resync it, SmartThings would simply refuse connecting to my bridge and keep telling me all of my lights were offline. That's kind of odd, I thought. I was sure that I saw the Works with Samsung SmartThings banner printed on the box. And sure enough, when I went and checked the box, it says Works with Samsung SmartThings. At this point, I contacted the Philips Hue customer support. And after chatting a bit, they told me that the issue stems from them changing from HTTP to the more secure HTTPS protocol. They also told me that Samsung has had a year to resolve this. In other words, they blame Samsung. Philips Hue has always asked a premium price, but for a premium product. A product that would simply just work 99% of the time, and that would be compatible with every smart home platform imaginable. That image is now tainted. Well, at least to me. I was told by Philips Hue customer support that they would look into this problem. But at the moment of filming, all of my lights are still offline and doesn't work in SmartThings, but work flawlessly in Google Home, HomeKit, and Home Assistant. The main reason to upgrade to the Bridge Pro is the updated device limit. You can now add up to 150 lights and 50 accessories. That's a pretty big upgrade from the 50 device limit on the old V2 Bridge and 12 accessories limit that it had. But the new Bridge also supports what they call MotionAware, a feature that won't be coming to the old V2 Bridge. MotionAware uses the wireless signals that your bulbs and your lights use to communicate with each other and with the bridge in order to determine motion in a room. It's also worth noting that only Hue branded lights are compatible with the MotionAware function. In the app, all you have to do is navigate to the settings page and then hit devices. And here you'll see that you got a new MotionAware feature. From here, the Hue app will ask you to pick a room or a zone that you want to monitor motion in, and then select which of the lights that you want to use in order to detect the motion. It'll also guide you through some of the best practices like the positioning and the heights and so on. But once you've taken care of all of that, it'll ask you to leave the room so you can calibrate. Once calibrated, you get to choose what you want to happen once motion is detected. You can turn on lights or activate scenes, and you can also activate scenes based on time of the day. You can also choose whether or not you want the lights to turn off again after a period of time with no motion. If you have a Hue Secure subscription, you can also set it up to either send you a notification or trigger an alarm if motion is detected. But the biggest question that I had was, well, does it even work? But after having tested it for the last couple of days, I can say that it works surprisingly well. It isn't as fast as a dedicated motion sensor, but it's pretty close. I've also yet to experience a false detection or having the system ignore my motion not activating the lights that I've set up. So generally, this could in certain situations and in certain rooms be a legitimate replacement for a dedicated motion sensor. One of the only downsides of using MotionAware though is that the Philips Hue Bridge don't expose the motion to other smart home platforms. But that was really what I had to say about my initial thoughts on the Bridge Pro. If you still have some questions that I didn't answer, or my video has led to more questions that you thought of, please ask away in the comments and I'll try and answer them if I can. Also stay tuned for future reviews because I do have a few videos coming up, one of which I've been teasing throughout this video. But anyways, thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next video.